This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards. Harmon Bliss thinks he's a psychopath. Harmon has an odd obsession with death, especially when it revolves around murder. He knows about many popular crimes, but when a local girl introduces him to an 8-year-old cold case, it's the only thing he can think about. Who killed Julia Manhattan and why? Suddenly, this case is taking over his life, and he thinks he may actually be able to solve this unsolved murder and the case of his missing classmate in the process. Can he do it? The book is Think Like the Killer. The author is Jaycie Mandrell. Jaycie Mandrell is a young author from Alabama. She balances real life and fictional on a daily basis in order to fulfill her hopes of becoming a published author. Happy to have Jaycie Mandrell join me now here on Speaking of Writers. Jaycie, welcome to this program.
Hi.
So where did the idea for Think Like the Killer come from?
It's me and my friends were talking about this true crime case at school one day, and we were talking about how they're mentally incapable of doing a lot of things. So I came up with the idea of having a main character that was a psychopath in a book, so I just kind of went from there.
What was your process of writing Think Like the Killer like?
I wrote the first chapter without really any plan of doing anything else. But I started researching about a bunch of mental illnesses, and I studied a lot of famous crimes to try and make the story as realistic as possible. So I started planning a few scenes and then just went wherever the story took me.
Jaycie, what were some of the famous crimes that you looked at?
I studied a lot about Ted Bundy, and there was another one, but I can't really remember.
So that was part of your research, was looking into some of the famous crimes. What else was part of your research for this book?
I would read journal entries from a bunch of people suffering with the same mental illnesses as the main character was, and so that I could kind of write his struggles better by using someone else's words, I guess.
How is it balancing high school, part-time jobs, and a now writing career, too?
It's really, really hard. Sometimes whenever I have a break at school, I'll start writing something. Or if I'm at work and we don't have really any customers, I'll sit in the back and start writing. It's just all mixed together, really.
Have you always been a big reader?
I have, ever since I was little.
Who are some of your inspirations in terms of novelists?
Right now, I really want to write like Karen McManus. She's one of my favorite authors. She's really good at writing mystery books.
Chatting with Jaycie Mandrell. Her new book is Think Like the Killer. So what are the reasons why you wrote this book, Jaycie?
I really wanted to spread awareness about certain mental health issues that people see as dangerous when they're not actually. And the main character in Think Like the Killer has the struggles that people are scared of. So I wanted to make his character a good guy so that people understood that they're not always bad people.
What's been the response? I read something about how since the type stories you write are pretty brutal, what's been the response from your family?
Yeah, a lot of them have asked me if I need therapy after reading this book. And it's just, I really don't know. It's a big inside joke with our family right now.
I want to talk to you about Harmon Bliss. How did you create that character?
I really don't know. He just kind of came to me in a dream, I think. I had a dream about a teenage boy who was really into crime, and I think I was there too, but I don't really remember what I was doing. But I kind of based the character off of this kid in my dream.
You said you wrote the first chapter, so how long did it take you to complete the book? Did you put it aside for a long time?
I would get into these stages where I didn't want to write anything, so it took me over a year to finish the book, but overall it didn't take me as long as I was expecting it to.
Did you outline the book at all?
Not really. I would write just random scenes that I wanted to put in the future and then be able to connect them as I wrote, but I never really outlined anything.
So why did you choose writing as a career, Jaycie?
Ever since I was little, I've always loved coming up with these stories in my head, and I wanted to just write them so that other people could read them so they're not just me.
And how did you grow to love writing fiction stories?
Whenever I was in the third grade, I had this assignment to write a short story about a mythical creature or something. And I had so much fun with it that I was only supposed to write like 2 pages, I think. And I just kept writing it even after that 2 pages because I had so much fun with it. And then after that project, I just kept writing stuff, and I just loved it, every second of it.
When do you have time to write?
After school, whenever I don't have to work, or during breaks at school, during my free periods. But I try my best to keep it out of school as much as I can. But after school is usually whenever I sit down and write stuff.
Have you always kept a journal?
Yes, I always have a journal with me to write down stuff that comes up in my head or just my thoughts about anything, and it's helped me a lot.
Do you have a special place where you write, Jaycie, or can you write anywhere?
Not really. I'll just take out my phone, write on Google Docs on my phone, or just sit at my desk and write on my computer. It's anywhere.
All right, so you've got this first book done. Are you hard at work on another novel? And if so, can you give us a sneak peek into what it's about?
I am. It's another story about teenagers, but this time it's where they go to this house because they were expecting it to be a house party, but it's not actually a house party, and they kind of get into a mess with this random stranger who's kind of a little crazy.
I asked you earlier about the reaction of your family to your writing. What's been the reaction of your friends to this book?
None, really. They're really proud of me, I know, but they don't really talk about it as much because I don't think they want to make that about all me. They want to be more separate from my career and who I am.
You mentioned you wrote down all these stories. Did you have friends and family members say, Jaycie, you're a great storyteller?
Sometimes. It's just my friends have told me all the time that I'm good at telling stories. And then whenever I was in, like, the 7th grade, I think, one of my friends told me to download an app where I could write stories, and I got a lot of feedback on that story that I published on the app. So I just started working towards publishing.
All right, you're on Writers Republic, by the way, and that's what I want to mention. That's where the book is available, Think Like the Killer. How did you come up with the title, by the way?
Well, the story is about a boy who thinks that he's going to become a killer whenever later in life. So whenever he starts solving this crime, he puts himself in the shoes of the killer. So he's thinking like the killer.
Jaycie Mandrell, the book is Think Like the Killer. It is available at writersrepublic.com, and also some keyword searches for the book, murder mystery books, of course, YA thriller books, mental health books as well. And what would you like readers to take away from this book, Jaycie?
I just want people to know that certain mental health issues is not a bad thing. Sometimes it can help you in weird ways, but people should know that Harmon is not a bad guy, even though he kind of sounds like one. And a lot of people will be able to relate to him, I think.
She's Jaycie Mandrell. She's from Alabama. The book is Think Like the Killer. Again, you can get it and purchase it at writersrepublic.com. Jaycie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And this is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards.